Places of worship are more than religious sites. They are cultural landmarks, historic treasures, and community hubs. In Spain, where diverse religious traditions converge, the protection of these sacred spaces is of utmost importance. In this video, we will explore the current status of the protection of these places, which hold deep cultural, historical, and spiritual significance. They are not just buildings, they represent the fundamental right to freedom of religion. Protecting these spaces is about more than public security. It is about safeguarding a fundamental human right. However, challenges remain, as attacks on religious sites continue to highlight the need for vigilance and proactive measures. Spain, a country celebrated for its rich cultural and religious diversity, is home to over 30,000 places of worship. These sacred spaces, spanning churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples of other faiths, are vulnerable to various challenges such as vandalism, neglect, and environmental damage. Religious plurality is integral to Spanish society. According to the Observatory of Religious Pluralism in Spain, 1 in 4 places of worship belongs to non-Catholic faiths. Regions like Catalonia, Andalusia, and Madrid lead in religious diversity, reflecting the evolving spiritual landscape of the country. However, this diversity also brings challenges. The 2023 annual report by the Observatory for Religious Freedom and Freedom of Conscience highlights emerging threats to religious freedom in Spain. Similarly, the report by Enhancing Faith Institutions on incidents against places of worship across Europe since October 7, 2023, sheds further light on this trend. While overall incidents of religious attacks have declined slightly, the severity of violence and targeted hostility against places of worship and believers has increased significantly. In 2023, Spain witnessed a total of 195 attacks on religious freedom, marking a 6% decrease from 2022, which recorded 208 attacks. However, the severity and intensity of violence and hostility have increased. The attacks can be broken down into several categories. There were 3 instances of violence against believers, 41 attacks on places of worship and religious symbols, 32 cases involving the humiliation of believers, 54 incidents of mocking religion, and 65 cases tied to aggressive secularism. Regarding religious distribution, Catholics face the highest number of attacks with 155 recorded incidents. Other Christian denominations experienced 31 attacks, followed by 21 targeting Jewish communities and 3 against Muslims. There has been a notable increase in attacks against Jewish communities, with anti-Semitic incidents rising dramatically following the October 7 Hamas attack, which led to a 600% spike in attacks on Jewish individuals and property compared to previous years. Additionally, it was reported that 3 out of every 4 attacks were directed at Christians. More recently, in 2024, several high-profile attacks targeted cemeteries across Spain. These included the destruction of tombstones and crosses in Espinado, Seville, León, and provinces such as Toledo and La Coruña. Notably, over 80 crucifixes were stolen in Estremera, Madrid, underscoring an intensified trend of cemetery vandalism. Here are some emerging threats and trends identified. Physical attacks and vandalism on places of worship. Significant physical harm to clergy has been reported, including the tragic murder of a sacristan in Algeciras and other instances of violence, such as attacks on priests in Santiago de Compostela and an attack in Oviedo during a mass that caused panic among the congregants. These incidents highlight a worrying trend of extremist violence increasingly targeting places of worship and their leaders. Vandalism has also been prevalent. Examples include attacks on churches, such as burning nativity scenes, stealing religious artifacts, and defacing religious symbols and worship items. These acts signify both physical and symbolic threats to religious sanctity. Notable incidents include deliberate attempts to burn churches, such as those reported in Vitoria and Bescano. Increase in violence following key events. Violence has escalated in the aftermath of significant international events. The October 7 Hamas attack triggered a dramatic rise in hate crimes, particularly against Jewish communities. These incidents underline the international influences shaping local hostilities. Anti-religious campaigns surrounding social and political actions. Feminist groups and pro-choice activists have vandalized Catholic churches and organized campaigns of hate fueled by political and social activism. Additionally, the removal of crosses for historical or ideological reasons, such as in Castellón and Barado, has sparked political and religious tensions. In conclusion, despite a slight reduction in overall attacks on religious freedom, the intensity of these acts has increased. Moving forward, there is a pressing need to enhance security around religious locations, increase interfaith dialogue, and promote stronger cultural understanding to mitigate these threats. What are the existing measures and framework for protection? Effective responses need to account for both preventive security measures and societal awareness programs to tackle underlying tensions. Spain's National Office for Combating Hate Crimes has boosted funding for local initiatives aimed at counteracting discrimination and promoting community understanding. These efforts are complemented by a nationwide public awareness campaign launched by the Spanish police, which aims to educate the public on the risks and consequences of engaging in or condoning hate crimes. Nevertheless, the recent repeal of the Offense Against Religious Feelings, Article 525 of the Spanish Criminal Code, introduces new challenges to this delicate system. The Spanish government's decision to repeal Article 525 of the Penal Code, which penalized actions that disturb religious ceremonies or damage religious sites, as well as public offense against religious feelings, has sparked widespread concern among religious communities. This repeal creates significant tensions between constitutional rights. Representatives of multiple religious groups, including the Spanish Bishops' Conference, the Federation of Evangelical Religious Entities of Spain, the Islamic Commission of Spain, and the Federation of Jewish Communities of Spain, have publicly condemned the repeal. They argue that freedom of expression, Article 20, must coexist with the rights to religious freedom and dignity, Articles 16 and 15. Removing protections against public insults, ridicule, and desecration of religious symbols often correlates with further aggressions against worshippers and normalizes behaviors that can escalate into violent attacks or threats. Critics further emphasize that repealing Article 525 disregards the complex nature of religious and social harmony. A lack of penalties for acts of public offense weakens the protection of faith-based communities. Religious groups highlight the role of authorities in safeguarding both religious expression and civic respect in a pluralistic society. Religious leaders are therefore calling for balanced policies and collaborative solutions, advocating for continued dialogue with the government through the Advisory Commission on Religious Freedom, as stipulated in the Royal Decree 932/2013. Their main proposals include balanced protections that uphold freedom of expression while safeguarding religious sentiments, greater investment in security and monitoring systems for vulnerable places of worship, and stronger political commitment to protecting worshippers from both ideological and criminal threats. In conclusion, while Spain employs measures to protect places of worship through anti-terror frameworks and site-specific strategies, the repeal of the Offense Against Religious Feelings creates potential vulnerabilities. The intersection of freedom of expression and religious dignity must be carefully navigated to prevent growing incidents of public offense and escalating violence. Addressing these challenges requires stronger localized protections, increased training, and a commitment to harmonize constitutional rights, ensuring both freedom of expression and religious freedom remain integral components of Spain's society. The international community recognizes the urgency of this issue. In 2019, the United Nations launched the Plan of Action to Safeguard Religious Sites. It emphasizes principles such as respect, responsibility, diversity, and dialogue to ensure these sanctuaries remain safe and peaceful. Among its key recommendations are promoting education to foster respect for all cultures and religions, countering hate speech online, and strengthening national frameworks to respond to threats. As Spain continues to embrace its pluralistic identity, safeguarding places of worship remains a shared responsibility. Through education, dialogue, and solidarity, we can ensure these spaces remain havens of peace, unity, and spiritual growth for generations to come.